Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Krishna Balaram, Jaya Giri Govardhan, Krishna Balaram, Jaya Giri Govardhan. Jaya Radha Govardhandari, Radha Govardhandari, Shri Radhe. Joy Om Vishapad Paramahamsa Parivraj Jagadashi Shrimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Maharaj Ki. Joy Om Vishapad Paramahamsa Parivraj Jagadashi Shrimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Maharaj Ki. Nantakoti Vaishnavrinda Ki. Namachara Shila Haridas Thakur Ki. Premsakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadha Shiva Sarigora Bhaktivinoda Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shyamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhana Ki Jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Shri Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Shri Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Ganga Maya Ki, Tulsi Devi Ki, Bhakti Devi Ki, Sambhaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki, Nittai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shishi Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Jai Jai Sri Caitanya, Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Sri Caitanya, Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Sri Caitanya, Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So we'll continue with our weekend readings from the Sri Caitanya Charitamrita, the nectarian pastimes of the living force and immortality is what Caitanya Charitamrita means. So the eternal pastimes of the living force and immortality. So this chapter is chapter 17, which is the pastimes of the Lord in his youth, and we've also almost finished the first Adi Leela. We've only got a few more verses to go, then we would have made it through the Adi Leela, and we'll be going on to the Madhya Leela. So the pastimes will continue as Lord Caitanya has taken sannyas, and he'll begin his tour around India for about 6 years, which is captured in the Madhya Leela. Then it goes on to the Antya Leela, which is the last 18 years of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life when he was residing in Jagannath Puri. So there's lots of nice pastimes and nectar to relish as we continue on. So we're up to text number 305 today, which is on the screen there. Hope you can all see that. Ite taka kari keha nakara samshaya. Ite taka kari keha nakara samshaya. Krishnera achintya shakti e matahaya. Ite taka kahi keha nakara samshaya. Krishnera achintya shakti e matahaya. Ite taka kari keha nakara samshaya. Krishnera achintya shakti e matahaya. Ite taka kari keha nakara samshaya. Krishnera achintya shakti e matahaya. Ite taka kari keha nakara samshaya. Krishnera achintya shakti e matahaya. Ladies like to chant? Ite taka kari keha nakara samshaya. Krishnera chintya shakti e matahaya. Ite taka kari keha nakara samshaya. Krishnera chintya shakti e matahaya. The synonyms ite, in this matter, taka kahi, making arguments, keha, someone, na, do not, kara, make, samshaya, doubts, krishnera, of Lord Krishna, achintya shakti, inconceivable potency. This, mata, the verdict, haya, is. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. One cannot understand the contradictions in Lord Chaitanya's character by putting forward mundane logic and arguments. Consequently, one should not maintain doubts in this connection. One should simply try to understand the inconceivable energy of Krishna. Otherwise, one cannot understand how such contradictions are possible. So there's no purport for that, so we'll move on to text 306. Achintya Adbhuta Krishna Caitanya Vihara Chitra Bhava Chitra Guna Chitra Vyavahara. Translation: the pastimes of Sri Krishna Caitanya Mahaprabhu are inconceivable and wonderful. His ecstasy is wonderful, his qualities are wonderful, and his behaviour is wonderful. Text number 307. Take iha nahi mane ye durachara kumbi pakke pache tara nahika nishtara. Translation: if one simply adheres to mundane arguments and therefore does not accept this, he will boil in the hell of kumbi paka. For him there is no deliverance. Heavy. Purport: Kumbi Paka, a type of hellish condition, is described in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 26, Text 13, wherein it is said that a person who cooks living birds and beasts to satisfy his tongue is brought before Yamaraj after death and punished in the Kumbi Paka hell. There he is put into boiling oil called Kumbi Paka, from which there is no deliverance. Kumbi Paka is meant for persons who are unnecessarily envious. Those who are envious of the activities of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu are punished in that hellish condition. Om Jnana Tramanandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chaksho Umlitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Jnana Tramanandasya Jananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Amritamena Tasma Shri Gurave Namaha. Okay, well that's a very colourful purport, isn't it? So we understand that, and it's repeated throughout the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, and also in the Sri Caitanya Caritamrita, this principle, the Tashi Krishna Namadi, that Krishna can't be understood through material senses. It's not the process for understanding the Supreme Lord. And we can see it's the common mentality these days is, they say, what is the saying? Seeing is believing. If God exists, then why can't I see him with my eyes? But we know that to see means to hear. We actually learn to see Krishna and the Supreme Lord through our ears, through hearing. We have to hear about from the Vaishnavas about the name, form, and qualities of Krishna, and that's the process for understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and also through bhakti, devotional service. It's repeated through the Bhagavad Gita and the Shastras that we have to engage in devotional service. Bhakti, that's the process. So the process being discussed today about mundane logic and argument, there's no way of understanding the Supreme Lord this way. And we can, as we're reading here, there are so many apparent contradictions in this avatar of Krishna, or is Krishna himself, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, that Krishna is coming as his own devotee to understand himself, so he can understand the mood of Srimati Radharani, that what is it about me that Srimati Radharani is attracted to, and how does she feel? What are the ecstasies she's feeling and this attraction she has for me? So it seems a bit contradictory that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is there some lacking in him that he has to take another form to understand himself? But we understand that Lord Caitanya is a combination of Radha and Krishna, and those are the internal reasons that Krishna is coming as Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu, is to enjoy, to experience that higher rasa of Radharani and that love she feels for him. So very, very difficult to understand this concept of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And it's quite bewildering if you don't listen to the acharyas, just like there are so many different renditions of Bhagavad Gita written by non-devotees. Like they'll say, oh, Krishna is just a mythological, historical figure who didn't really exist, but they'll write a commentary on the Bhagavad Gita. So that doesn't make sense, really, does it? That even though they say Krishna is some mythological character, they'll still write a commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, the words spoken by Krishna himself. So this isn't the process, this mundane logic and argument is not the process for understanding the Lord. If I remember, I've got a nice... Yeah. No one can understand Krishna as he is by the blunt material senses. Atashi Krishna Namadi. So you see there's someone with a scientific mind trying to scientifically analyse and work things out. And we can see that's generally in Kali Yuga how the mind works. It's trying to, what do they call it? The ascending approach to knowledge, that through our own sense perception and our own intellect, we'll come to the truth. As Prabhupada said, it's like the scientists who are always offering the post-dated check, that in the future we will know the source of everything, where everything comes from. Sometime in the future we'll work it out, we'll know. You like that one, do you?
I want to send it to someone.
Okay. I can send you the GIF, I think they call them the Giphy. So yeah, we can see that this ascending approach to knowledge, especially in the scientific realm, is very prominent now. And this is what people are indoctrinated to in the schooling system. Like someone I know calls the schools government indoctrination camps, because people are indoctrinated into this atheistic, materialistic way of thinking. Because we know that the Vedas is a descending approach to knowledge, that it's through hearing from bona fide authorities, through the Vedas in a disciplic succession, that you can understand Krishna, you can understand the absolute truth. So it's very, very contaminating, this speculative, scientific, ascending approach to understanding the truth. So we know within the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition is that we have to hear from the bona fide authorities, we have to hear through the acharyas. And we're very fortunate that we have so many luminaries coming in our disciplic succession, right from Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu himself and Gaura-Kishoredas Babaji Maharaj, Bhakti Sandra Sarasvati Thakur, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, the six Goswamis, so many acharyas who have written so many literatures to assist us. So we're actually very dependent on these acharyas for our Krishna consciousness and for our understanding of the absolute truth and understanding how to reawaken our relationship with Krishna. Also in the I think I've quoted that verse. Atashi Krishna Namadi Nabhavhed Graham Indriyai Seven Mukhi Hijivado Swami Vasparatyada. No one can understand Krishna as he is by the blunt material senses, but he reveals himself to the devotees, being pleased with them for the transcendental loving service unto him. So, as Prabhupada is pointing out in his purport, that those who are envious of Krishna, envious of the devotees, then it says here that there's a certain realm where that these envious people are sent to, this kumbhipaka hellish situation. So we know in Krishna consciousness there is no such thing as eternal damnation, that you've got this one chance and then you blew it, that's it, off to hell for you for the rest of your life and eternity. We know there's no such thing as eternal damnation as there are maybe in other Abrahamic religions. But nevertheless, in the cosmology of the Vedas, we do find that there are realms where those living entities who are very envious and very sinful have to spend some time to rectify their consciousness. As we know that the human form of life does come with responsibilities. as Radhanath mentions, that there are so many weapons of mass distraction these days: the mobile phones, the tablets, the internet, entertainment, movies, the media, songs, so many things to distract our consciousness from focusing on solving the real problems that are presented in the human form of life: janma, mrityu, jara, vyadi, birth, death, old age, and disease. So if someone misuses the human form of life, then there are consequences for that. And unfortunately, in the Kali Yuga, people are very ignorant of this fact, that the human form of life does come with a higher purpose, a tato brahma jignasa, that now you've acquired the human form of life, it's meant for making inquiry into Brahman. Who am I? What am I? Where did I come from? What happens when I die? Who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Is there a God? Is God personal? Is God impersonal? If God's personal, does he have a form? And how is this form different to our form? What are his pastimes? What's the function of the soul? What does the soul do when it's no longer in the material body? Does it just float around somewhere in the sky and has some impersonal form, or does the soul have a function? So this is what the human form of life is meant for, asking these questions, making inquiry, and the Vedas are there to give guidance and give answers to these questions. So if one misuses the human form of life, or even worse, misuses the Shastra to make up their own speculations and mislead people, then there are consequences for doing that. So one has to be coming in an authorized disciplic succession in order to present the absolute truth. As Prabhupada said, that so many Bhagavad Gitas are out there, but no one became a devotee of Krishna through all these unauthorized editions of the Bhagavad Gita that have been written over hundreds of years. Prabhupada said his Bhagavad Gita was the only one that actually gave the actual Siddhanta, the proper conclusions, and people became devotees. That was the result. So many people read the Bhagavad Gita as it is by Srila Prabhupada and became Vaishnavas, and they still are. These books are being distributed all around the world, and like we just had the Christmas marathon. I think in New Zealand they did something like 20,000 different pieces of literature. In New Govardhana we had committed to trying to attempt to do about 2,000 Bhagavad Gitas as our offering to Prabhupada. So we can see these books are going out, people are reading these books, and they're becoming devotees because they're getting to associate with Srila Prabhupada and the Parampara through his purports. So they have this potency. So that's the effect of hearing from a bona fide authority, is that one will come to the proper conclusion that Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Jiva Rasarupoi, I am his eternal servant. This is Sanatan Dharma, which is beyond any temporary religious belief. It's Sanatan Dharma. This is the eternal function of the soul in relationship to Krishna. And as I was saying, the Sri Caitanya Caritamrita means the nectarian pastimes of the living force in immortality. So we're hearing about what the living force does in immortality and eternity as a devotee, and we see this example given by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, showing us how to be a devotee, how to practice devotional service. So Krishna also explains Bhakyamam abhijananti yavan yaschasmai tatvataha tatromam tatvato gyatva vish ate tat anantaram. One can understand the Supreme Personality as he is only by devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of the Supreme Lord, by such devotion he can enter into the kingdom of God. That's from the Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter, text 55. So it's reiterated throughout the words of Krishna himself and through the acharyas that one has to engage in devotional service. And the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is all about how to do the science and practice the science of Krishna consciousness in one's life. It's actually a nice purport to that verse from the Bhagavad Gita we just read, which is emphasizing this point about how to approach Krishna through the proper methodology and system. I'll read a bit from the purport because it's quite enlightening what Prabhupada writes. So he says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna and its plenary portions cannot be understood by mental speculation nor by the non-devotees. If anyone wants to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he has to take to pure devotional service under the guidance of a pure devotee. Otherwise, the truth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead will always be hidden. It is already stated, Naham Prakashaha, that he is not revealed to everyone. Everyone cannot understand God simply by erudite scholarship or mental speculation. Only one who is actually engaged in Krishna consciousness and devotional service can understand what Krishna is. University degrees are not helpful. We know that famous pastime with Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu and the illiterate Brahmana who was, he couldn't read, and he was looking at the Bhagavad Gita, but he was shedding tears. And Lord Caitanya approached him and just said to him, well, why are you crying for? And the Brahmana said, well, I'm illiterate and I can't read, but my guru has instructed me to read the Bhagavad Gita. And I'm seeing this picture here of Krishna driving the chariot for Arjuna, and it is making me feel very emotional because Krishna has become a servant of his own devotee. And Lord Chaitanya said, yes, you are the real devotee, you are the real Vaishnava. So this devotee couldn't read, but he understood the proper Siddhanta, that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, and even though he's the Supreme Lord, his devotees are so dear to him that devotional service will bring the Lord under control. That's one of the characteristics of bhakti, is it actually brings the Lord under the control of the devotee. And of course, there's sweetness in that relationship. So this illiterate Brahmana gives a nice example to exemplify that even though one may be illiterate and maybe not highly educated, if one understands I'm a servant of Krishna and I have a loving eternal relationship with him, that's very pleasing to Krishna, more so than someone who's very, very, very learned and educated and intelligent. And we also see in the Krishna book, was it the smarter Yagnik Brahmanas also, who were engaged in these intricate pujas. I guess they were doing it for material purposes. They were doing these yagnas and mantras and all these things, but for a material purpose. They didn't understand the purpose of the Vedas is to surrender to Krishna. So even though they were engaged in elaborate ritualistic seva, they'd missed the point. And Krishna sent along some of his cowherd boyfriends to beg for food. Oh, we're hungry. Krishna and Balaram are hungry. We need food for them. And the Brahmanas, what was their response? Go away. You're interfering with our pujas and our yagya. Go away. So then the Krishna instructed them to approach the wives of the Brahmanas, and they were devotees. So as soon as these cowherd boys approached these wives of these Yagyak Brahmanas and said, oh, Krishna and Balaram are hungry, and immediately, right, we must feed them. Immediately, spontaneously, they prepared wonderful food preparations for Krishna and Balaram. And then the Yagnak Brahmanas realized that actually they'd been very, very foolish, and they began cursing themselves. Oh, to hell with our ritualistic activities, to hell with our pujas, to hell with our erudite scholarship and learning. We've not understood the goal of all this is to please Krishna and Balaram. So we can see so many nice examples there of the power of bhakti, the power of devotional service. So Prabhupada further continues in his purport that one who is fully conversant with the Krishna science becomes eligible to enter into the spiritual kingdom, the abode of Krishna. Becoming Brahman does not mean that one loses his identity. Devotional service is there, and as long as devotional service exists, there must be God, the devotee, and the process of devotional service. Such knowledge is never vanquished even after liberation. Liberation involves getting free from the concept of material life. In spiritual life, the same distinction is there, the same individuality is there, but in pure Krishna consciousness. One should not misunderstand that the word vishate, enters into me, supports the monist theory that one becomes homogeneous with the impersonal Brahman. No, vishate means that one can enter into the abode of the Supreme Lord in his individuality to engage in his association and render service unto him. For instance, a green bird enters a green tree not to become one with the tree, but to enjoy the fruits of the tree. Impersonalists generally give the example of a river flowing into the ocean and merging. This may be a source of happiness for the impersonalist, but the personalist keeps his personal individuality like an aquatic in the ocean. We find so many living entities within the ocean if we go deep. Surface acquaintance with the ocean is not sufficient. One must have complete knowledge of the aquatics living in the ocean depths. Yeah, so we can see it's quite a... Unless one has the association of devotees, it's very, very difficult to understanding that the Supreme Absolute Truth is actually a person. He has a form. Of course, it's a very different form to our material form, but generally that's the conclusion without the association of devotees, as one will come to, is that the supreme absolute truth is impersonal, is a void. And just like Prabhupada said there, that the example that some of the Brahmavadis or Mayavadis will give is just like the green parrot flies into the green tree and it merges in with the tree. But it's not a very good logical reason, because we understand that even though the parrot seemingly has merged into the tree, being the same colour as the tree, the parrot does retain its individuality and personality, even though it's seemingly merged into the greenness of the tree. And Prabhupada gave the example there, like the impersonalists give the example of the rivers running into the ocean, becoming one, all merges into one thing, as Prabhupada says there. But there are aquatics in the ocean, and they retain their individuality. They're individual living entities even within the ocean, even though on the surface the ocean just looks like a vast expanse of water, one big body of water. We understand that it's aquatics. As you go deeper into it, there are individual living entities residing within that ocean. And we understand that with Krishna, the example also given is like he's Om Punam, he's complete. So all emanations that come from him are also complete as well, just like the gold mine, that even though we may get a gold ring or some jewellery from the gold mine is complete in itself. You can't say that the gold ring or the gold necklace is as good as the gold mine. There's a massive quantitative difference between the gold mine and the gold ring, or the sun and the sunshine. There's a difference. And this is the philosophy of Caitanya Mahaprabhu, is a Chincha Bheda Abheda Tattva, the simultaneous oneness and difference. So that's the essence of Lord Chaitanya's teachings, is we're simultaneously one with, but different from the Supreme Lord, quantitatively and qualitatively. So the Lord, Krishna, is like the soul of our soul. And we understand that the living entity in the material world is covered over, and this original consciousness has been forgotten about. So even though the Mayavadis may preach this philosophy of the oneness of God and the Jiva, we understand the Vaishnava Siddhanta is a superior understanding. I think a devotee friend of mine, Krishnendu, was saying that he was I think he was maybe travelling in India, maybe in one of the holy dhams, and there was a Mayavadi practitioner preaching this impersonalist philosophy, and it must have been during winter time, and he was cold and shivering, and then my friend approached him, and he was wearing a chadar, and he pulled off one strand from his chadar and he gave it to the Mayavadi, and saying, well, here you go, it's all one, so you know, the strand is as good as the chadar, so please warm yourself with this one strand. So he was making a philosophical point to him that it's not all one, you know, that the jiva and the supreme are not one. There is, qualitatively they are the same, but quantitatively there's a vast difference. And it can be hard to get your head around this understanding that God is actually a person, because immediately when we think of a person, we analyze it through our own experience, that if God's a person, then he's limited like I am. He has limited perception, has a material body, and has all these limitations upon him. So that's why it's important to hear from the acharyas and read the Shastra, so our mind can come to this understanding that God is actually a person, an unlimited, eternally existing individual person, which means he has a form, he has qualities, he has a name, he has pastimes, and he has devotees. So this is the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is to deliver this essence of this Vedic understanding to the living entities in Kali Yuga, all the dull-headed and very unqualified residents of this Kali Yuga age and realm. Lord Chaitanya is very, very merciful to deliver us this knowledge and this understanding. As we've said before, he's the most magnanimous incarnation because he's freely distributing without discrimination the highest understanding of love of Godhead. So very, very fortunate. So continuing on, there's a nice section of the Caitanya Charitamrita, the discussion between Ramananda Roy and Lord Chaitanya, where some of these seemingly contradictions are clarified by this discussion with Ramananda Roy and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's interesting that it says in the Govardhana that this devotee Ramananda Roy was an incarnation of Arjuna. And we know that when Krishna appeared, he was giving instructions through the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. So there's also this wonderful conversation between Arjuna and Krishna in the form of Ramananda Roy and Lord Caitanya. And the tables turn a little bit because Lord Caitanya acts as a student and he treats Ramananda Roy as his instructor. He treats Ramananda Roy as his guru, whereas we see in the Bhagavad Gita that Arjuna accepts Krishna as his guru. So I thought it was quite interesting how when Lord Krishna comes or his incarnations come, that all of his associates are also coming with him as well, and all these rasas are still taking place between them. So we'll go to the next one. So there's in the Sri Caitanya Caritamrita in the Madhya Lila, which we'll be obviously coming to over the coming months as we progress through the Madhya Lila, there is this very wonderful discussion between Ramananda Roy and Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And I feel it's a very enlightening dialogue, discourse between them, which relates to this concept of who Krishna is, what the truth is about Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu, and how it's not understood through blunt material senses and speculation and dry logic. So we'll read a little bit from there. We've only got a few minutes left, so we'll read a bit from this section of the Caitanya Caritamrita. So this is from the Madhya Lila, chapter 8, and we'll start from text 279. There's a nice picture here of this Ramananda Roy meeting Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And of course, Ramananda Roy was a householder. He was a married man. He wasn't a renunciate. And he was in the government service, just like Sanatana and Rupa Goswami had been. He was also engaged in government service. So he was a worldly man, a grihastha, married. But Lord Caitanya accepted him just as good as Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami with his renunciation of the material world. So Ramananda Roy continued, "My dear Lord, I can understand that you have assumed the ecstasy and bodily complexion of Srimati Radharani. By accepting this, you are tasting your own personal transcendental humour and have therefore appeared as Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. My dear Lord, you have descended in this incarnation of Lord Caitanya for your own personal reasons. You have come to taste your own spiritual bliss, and at the same time you are transforming the whole world by spreading the ecstasy of love of Godhead. My dear Lord, by your causeless mercy you have appeared before me to grant me liberation. Now you are playing in a duplicitous way. What is the reason for this behaviour? Lord Sri Krishna is the reservoir of all pleasure, and Srimati Radharani is the personification of ecstatic love of Godhead. These two forms have combined as one in Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. This being the case, Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu revealed his real form to Ramananda Roy." So we can see here in this picture here, this is when Lord Caitanya reveals the truth of himself to Ramananda Roy, that he is Radha and Krishna combined. And there's a short purport which adds to this understanding. This is described as Radha Bhava Jyoti Suvalitam Nomi Krishna Swarupam. Lord Sri Krishna was absorbed in the features of Srimati Radharani. This was disclosed to Ramananda Roy when he saw Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu. An advanced devotee can understand Sri Krishna, Radha Krishna Nahi Anya. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, being a combination of Krishna and Radha, is non-different from Radha Krishna combined. This is explained by Sarup Damodar Goswami. Radha Krishna Prana Vikritya Hladini Shaktya Asmad Ekat Manav Api Bhuvi Pura Deha Bedam Gatuto Caitanya Kyam Prakatam Adhuna Tadvyayam Chakyam Aptam Radha Bhava Jyoti Suvalitam Nomi Krishna Swarupam. Radha Krishna is one. Radha Krishna is Krishna and Krishna's pleasure potency combined. When Krishna exhibits his pleasure potency, he appears to be two he appears to be two, Radha and Krishna. Otherwise, Radha and Krishna are one. This oneness may be perceived by advanced devotees through the grace of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. This was the case with Ramananda Roy. One may aspire to attain such a position, but one should not try to imitate the Mahabhagavat. So we'll move on to the next text, 283. Upon seeing this form, Ramananda Roy lost consciousness in transcendental bliss. Unable to remain standing, he fell to the ground. When Ramananda Roy fell to the ground unconscious, Caitanya Mahaprabhu touched his hand and he immediately regained consciousness. But when he saw Lord Chaitanya in the dress of a sannyasi, he was struck with wonder. After embracing Ramananda Roy, the Lord pacified him, informing him, "But for you, no one has ever seen this form." It's pretty special, isn't it? But for you, no one has ever seen this form. It's like we see in the Bhagavad Gita that Krishna revealed his universal form to Arjuna. Like Arjuna wanted to see this universal form, and similarly he also became overwhelmed as well, became completely bewildered because he saw in this universal form, he saw everything, the entire universe, and including himself. It's like when Mother Yashoda, we have the picture up here of Mother Yashoda looking into the mouth of Krishna, and she saw the entire universe contained within his body. So you can meditate on that. Imagine looking at that into somebody's mouth and you see the entire universe contained inside their body. It'd be quite bewildering. And of course, in the case of Mother Yashoda, Krishna arranged the Yogamaya potency to quickly cover her over because he doesn't want that mood of love that Mother Yashoda has for him to take away from the sweetness of that relationship he enjoys with Mother Yashoda. As we can see that generally people have a concept of God, that God is great and God is all-powerful, and it's a mood of awe and reverence is there. This Aishvarya, this awe and reverence, that's how generally most other religions approach God, in this mood of awe and reverence, that God is great, God is powerful, God is all good. And those things are true, and that's definitely one level of God consciousness, but we understand through the Vedic Shastras that above and beyond that is when one is actually engaged in sweet, loving relationships with Krishna in different rasas. So Krishna, with his most intimate devotees, doesn't like that rasa, that mood, to be interfered with. So we can see that in this case of Mother Yashoda looking into the mouth of Lord Krishna and seeing the whole universe in there, that he covered her over so that that mood of that love, that sweetness wasn't taken away. And so more pleasing to Krishna when he enjoys these loving, intimate relationships with his very intimate devotees. And we can see here that he's revealing to Ramananda Roy this very, very esoteric and very intimate point that Lord Chaitanya is Radha and Krishna combined. There's no difference between Radha and Krishna and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So in the Bhagavad Gita, this is from the purport. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, "Naham prakasha sarvasya yoga maya samambrita mudho yam nabi janti lokamam ajam abhyayam." I'm never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them I'm covered by my internal potency, yoga maya, so that they do not know me, who am unborn and infallible. The Lord always reserves the right of not being exposed to everyone. The devotees, however, are always engaged in the service of the Lord, serving with the tongue by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra and tasting Maha Prasadam, which is not far away. Gradually, the sincere devotee pleases the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the Supreme Lord reveals himself. One cannot see the Supreme Lord by making personal efforts. Rather, when the Lord is pleased by the service of the devotee, he reveals himself. I think Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur made that similar point, is don't demand to see Krishna, but act in such a way that he will reveal himself to you. So that's one of the secrets of approaching the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is that you have to act in such a way that he will reveal himself to you. You have to act in devotional service and act in a pleasing way, so naturally the Supreme Personality of Godhead will reveal himself to you. And that's the perfection of yoga, when one actually has this darshan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then that's what yoga is meant for, is to bring one to that stage of elevation and consciousness that one can directly perceive and see the Supreme Personality of Godhead with their own eyes. And it's not that one has to wait until they die and pass away, but even in this lifetime, if we engaging in pure devotional service, and Krishna is so pleased with us that he will reveal himself to us. So it is possible in this lifetime. And of course, we have to fan that enthusiasm, and that desire has to be retained within us, that desire to want to see the Supreme Lord and have this very intimate, special darshan with him. Because we know that the energy, the illusory energy of the Lord is always covering us over, to think that there's something more important than our own enlightenment. I think Devramita Maharaj makes that point, that there's no greater tragedy than thinking that there is something more important than your own enlightenment. And we can see, as we mentioned, that these weapons of mass destruction, these illusory potency of Maya, is there to distract us, to think there is something more important than our own enlightenment. I have to pay the bills, I have to earn money, have to watch TV, have to go to this concert, have to watch the internet, have to go on social media. There's all these things which are there to distract us and pull us away from the greater picture, the greater purpose. And of course, we have to live a balanced life. That most of us are married people, such as myself. We have families and we have responsibilities to maintain our families and look after them. But the overarching goal of everything is to become enlightened, is to develop our Krishna consciousness. And of course, we do that in a balanced way, an intelligent, balanced way. Not that we reject and neglect our families and go live in a cave and forget about the world. I think Jesus said we have to learn to, what's the saying he said? Be in the world but not of the world, right? Be in the world but not of the world. And that's really what Krishna consciousness is about, is how to function in this world and go about our duties and responsibilities, but at the same time elevating our consciousness to the transcendent platform, reawaken our God consciousness. So be in the world but not of the world. And of course, Caitanya Mahaprabhu exemplifies how to do that, how to become a devotee. And of course, we see there's so many different instructions that Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu gave to his different associates. He was very, very strict with those who were renounced and sannyasis and had taken to the monk lifestyle, and he'd instruct them a certain way and be very strict upon them. And then there were others who were married grihastas, and he'd instruct them in a different way, to be responsible and look after your family and have an income and pay the bills. He didn't say, walk away from your family, reject it all and go to the forest. No, he would instruct according to someone's ashram, some situation that they're in. And we can see here with Ramananda Roy, he was a family man. He was a government official, and he had this most intimate darshan of the Supreme Lord. He wasn't like a monk living in the forest. He was a responsible government family man, and he had this special darshan. As Lord Caitanya says, but for you, no one has seen this form. So just goes to show that one doesn't have to be a monk to attain success in life with Krishna consciousness. Anyway, I guess we better stop there and ask if there's any questions or points at all from what we were discussing. I would have read on a little bit more. Yes, Prabhu. All right. The next verse, Lord Caitanya says, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu confirmed, all the truths about my pastimes and mellows are within your knowledge. Therefore, I have shown this form to you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for the class. I have a question about the first verse. It is explained about the doubt. That because it's, maybe you can read the...
Text number 305, was it?
Yeah, the one we were reading first.
One cannot understand the contradictions in Lord Chaitanya's character by putting forward mundane logic and arguments. Consequently, one should not maintain doubts in this connection. One should simply try to understand the inconceivable energy of Krishna. Otherwise, one cannot understand how such contradictions are possible.
Yeah, the question about doubts. In Prabhupada writes in the 3rd canto that doubt is one of the important functions of intelligence. Blind acceptance of something does not give evidence of intelligence. Of course, we know when it refers to Shastra, the situation is different. But my question was more regarding what is the use and the place of doubt within a spiritual practice. Because Prabhupada explains that it has some importance, especially in the beginning.
Yeah, well, we know that Prabhupada said the most important verse in the Bhagavad Gita was 4:34. Try to approach the self-realized soul and inquire from them submissively and render service unto them. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they understand the truth. So part of our process when there are doubts in Krishna consciousness is that we have to get those doubts alleviated by approaching the appropriate authorities and asking them according to nullify whatever those doubts may be. So that's why one has to have a guru or a spiritual master, of course a Shiksha guru or a Diksha guru, but one has to, in one sense it's a sign of intelligence, but when the intelligence is trying to find a reason, and this is what devotees can do, is find a reason to not have to surrender to Krishna, right? They'll use their intelligence. I have this doubt, therefore I don't have to be a devotee. So we have to be careful that if we have a doubt that we get that nullified through the Guru, the Sadhu, and the Shastra. And Prabhupada says that faith means unflinching trust in something sublime. Unflinching trust in something sublime is faith. So we want to fan that spark of faith and realization and not just have book knowledge, gyan, but we want vigyan, we want realized knowledge. So by engaging in the process of bhakti and hearing from the appropriate authorities and reading the Shastra and practicing devotional service, and we do get vigyan, we get direct realization of Krishna. Krishna does reveal himself to the devotees in many wonderful ways. So those doubts shouldn't be used in a way to justify, I'm just going to give up Krishna consciousness, forget it, it's too hard, and no one's really making any progress anyway. When we find our mind is like that, we know we're in the wrong direction. It's time to go for a trip to the Holy Dham or time to associate with devotees more advanced than we are. Yeah, so it's important to get that association of more advanced devotees for that reason, so they can nullify, clarify those doubts. Especially, I know you're a married man, or yeah, so you know it's hard when you're married that there's so many obligations and responsibilities that we have, and so you know it's easy to get covered over by Maya in that particular situation. So it's important that when we can associate with very advanced devotees, that we take that opportunity to serve them and to hear from them, and then through doing that, then these doubts can be cleared. And it's like whenever I have an opportunity, when my spiritual master comes, I try and render service to him, like just menial service, and spend time with him and drive him places and cook for him and just do basic services. And then if there are things in my mind, then I can, through doing service with him, then I can get those doubts nullified. Yeah. So it's important. Associate with advanced devotees is very important. Yeah. And read the Shastra too. It's a thing I think a lot of devotees, and Prabhupada said that's my only criticism of my disciples, that they don't read my books enough. They think my books are for distributing, not for reading. So by regularly reading these books, a lot of the answers are there actually. And also there's many books now by disciples of Prabhupada, and Hari Sori's books and Shama Sundra's books. There's so many books and so many wonderful instructions actually I found in those books given by Prabhupada as well. So yeah, I hope that answers to a degree. I don't know if anybody, Krishna Kirtan Prabhu, if you like anything to add to that.
There's a famous quote by Srila Jiva Goswami. He's quoted as saying, if you accept that Krishna is a Chinta, Shaktis, unlimited energies, and you accept that anything is possible, then spiritual life becomes very easy. Is basically just a leap over all the doubts, accept that statement.
Just remind me of that story of the Brahmana and the cobbler? Is that the one where threading tell him I'm threading the elephant through the eye of a needle? And the Brahmana's, impossible. But the cobbler, because he was humble and had faith, he said, this is my Lord, is so wonderful that he must see my Lord Vishnu, he's threading an elephant through the eye of the needle in Vaikuntha. So yeah, it's nice to take that humble position of the cobbler, right? Be humble. Trinadapi Sanuchana, be humble and tolerant and have a nice service attitude, a nice service mood, and try and serve the Vaishnavas when the opportunity arises. Yeah. Very important. Anyway, I think time for my prasadam. Right? My favourite form of devotional service. Right? At least I'm qualified. One qualification is I can honour prasadam.